looks like Jimmy Butler could be potentially really forcing his way to the Phoenix Suns. What does the Luka Doncic trade mean for the rest of the NBA? And even more specifically, does it actually benefit what the Phoenix Suns are doing for years to come? Also, it looks like there's one team left that'll take Bradley Beal. So let's break it all down this morning on the Ben Garcia Show.
The Ben Garcia Show. Yeah. Woo. Best show in the land. Yup. Listen. Come and get your information from Ben Garcia. Get the latest on your quarterback, running backs, and receivers. Tune in, so any other show you don't need them. Any news that he giving out, please just believe him. Giving out the latest prediction and top-notch analysis. Wanna hear the truth, better have thick skin like callus. The latest move that your team just made can be damaging. The dudes ain't speaking no facts, they just be rambling. Lights, camera, action, turn on the show, go get the cameraman. Yeah. Lights, camera, action, turn on the show, go get the cameraman. The Ben Garcia Show.
What is up, guys? Welcome into yet another edition of the Ben Garcia Show. I appreciate you guys making me a part of your day. However you're watching, however you're following the Ben Garcia Show, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, tell a friend potentially of the Ben Garcia Show. What an insane weekend we have had among us over the past couple of years. I cannot remember a weekend in which something was so absolutely nuts. I have a pretty strict no working policy, especially now that I have really started streaming in the mornings and taking things like that a little bit more seriously. Not necessarily that my content wasn't always extremely serious, but I like to spend the weekends with my wife, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, being able, just her and I hanging out while I work my butt off Monday through Thursday. But there are some times when you break those rules and you don't feel bad about it. And Luka Doncic getting traded was so crazy. It was just earth-shattering news. Last night I was out with some friends, my wife and I as well, and didn't go home and record an emergency pod for De'Aaron Fox because it was shocking, kind of, but we thought that that was something that could happen. But De'Aaron Fox isn't a top 5 player in the NBA. So just insane news top to bottom. So appreciate you guys making me a part of your day. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Follow me on all social media platforms at Ben Garcia Show. Do me a favor and hit that like button this morning. Heading out to New Orleans this morning. As soon as this is done, I'll be packing up all my stuff, head over to the Big Easy, and we'll be at Radio Row all week. We'll get a lot of NFL Super Bowl content. It's going to be a really good time. All right, guys. De'Aaron Fox gets traded last night to the Sacramento Kings. And after seeing the Luka Doncic trade, in which they gave up Anthony Davis, who's a really good player, and gave up Max Christie, who's a up-and-coming younger player, wouldn't exactly say a super promising player, but a good player. You can always tell how good or bad a player is in the trade when you go look at the Twitter comment section. And largely, Max Christie seems to be like he's going to be missed for the Los Angeles Lakers fans and going over to the Dallas Mavericks. But you make that trade 100 times out of 100 if you're getting back Luka Doncic. But it's just not a great... It's like Cam Johnson, right? I would trade Kevin Durant for Cam Johnson every day that ends in Y and twice on Sunday. But it did suck to see him go. And seeing what the Lakers had to trade, one first-round pick, Anthony Davis, and Max Christie for Luka Doncic is just all sorts of insane things we have never seen before, and I don't think we will ever see again in the NBA. Well, potentially. And that's something we'll get to later on in the show. And then you see De'Aaron Fox getting moved. With the additions of De'Aaron Fox to the San Antonio Spurs, and Luka Doncic to the Lakers, and Anthony Davis to the Dallas Mavericks, although I do think It was an insane, ridiculous trade, and the Lakers absolutely fleeced the Mavericks. I don't know how much better it made them this year. In fact, I don't think it made them much better, if at all, this season. In the future, it's going to be insane. And then same thing as well with the Dallas Mavericks. With the Dallas Mavericks. Anthony Davis is like a perfect fit with the Mavericks, and I do believe it makes them better significantly than the Suns as well. Defensively, they can suffocate the Phoenix Suns. And the San Antonio Spurs. I can't think of many players in the NBA that work as well with Victor Wembanyama as De'Aaron Fox is going to work with Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs. And so now you have teams like the Spurs weren't ahead of the Suns. Just eye test before they got De'Aaron Fox. Now they have De'Aaron Fox. I think they're significantly better, especially with Jeremy Shohan and Stephon Castle, Victor Wembanyama. It is a team that is starting to become pretty loaded, and it was insane to see what the San Antonio Spurs gave up for De'Aaron Fox. It truly wasn't a lot, and it took away a potential trade piece for a potential Suns Jimmy Butler trade. Maybe Zach LaVine to the Bucks, Bradley Beal to the Bulls. Even if I never really bought into that idea, it was something that was floated out there, and I didn't think it was absolutely insane, although I never really bought into it. But you look at the Luka Doncic trade, and you look at the and you look at the San Antonio Spurs trade, getting De'Aaron Fox. And you look and see what each team had to give up for one top 5 player in Luka Doncic and one fringe all-star player in De'Aaron Fox. And all you can do if you're a Suns fan is, man, Suns sure gave up a lot for Kevin Durant. And I would still defend the move. I don't think that they got fleeced. I don't think any of that. Look at the Brooklyn Nets. They've already moved off of Mikal Bridges, and they're going to have to move off of Cam Johnson as well here very soon, within the next week. Up until Thursday, Cam Johnson will be on a new team. And they gave up a lot of picks. But it just goes to show you, man, what is the Suns front office doing? What is their direction? I mean, you look at the Luka Doncic deals and the De'Aaron Fox deals, and you just say to yourself, why did you have to give up everything for KD? I mean, that was the last ginormous deal in the NBA. No one has given up that much for a superstar player. Now, I would still do it 10 times out of 10, but the negotiating has clearly got to be better. It looks like the Nets asked for everything and got it. And then you saw yesterday where Jimmy Butler is continuously forcing his hand to Phoenix. And this is a moment for the Phoenix Suns to kind of redeem some of their trade habits of the past couple of years. Whether it's Kevin Durant or whoever, right? I think there's one team left that truly makes sense for Bradley Beal that isn't the Miami Heat. And I do think it's not going to cost the Phoenix Suns, if they negotiate better, all 3 of their first-round picks. And maybe that's why it's taking so long. Maybe that's the potential. Maybe the Suns just understand that they do not want to get rid of all their picks and empty out the farm again for a player. And so now you have, at this point, Jimmy Butler on the block. The Milwaukee Bucks, outside of the Miami Heat just straight up taking Bradley Beal, are the Phoenix Suns' last chance to swing a deal for Jimmy Butler. And when you look at the landscape of just the Western Conference, the Lakers got better, the Mavericks got better, the San Antonio Spurs got better, and it's not just for this season. You could argue each team got significantly better for the next 2 or 3 seasons at minimum. The Suns got to find a way to swing a deal for Jimmy Butler on this team. And he's doing everything he can on his part to swing a deal. He told the Golden State Warriors to shove it last night. I won't sign an extension with you. Which means there's one team left for the Suns. For Jimmy Butler. And that's the Phoenix Suns. And Bradley Beal's no trade clause, we have seen before, it would get waived for the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, that was a few years ago. But Bradley Beal, that is pretty much the last chance the Phoenix Suns have. Here's the bad news. The only other team outside of the Milwaukee Bucks is the Miami Heat. But I feel like the Miami Heat are much less of a chance to take back Bradley Beal and potentially just do nothing for Jimmy Butler, because that's how bad Bradley Beal's contract is. But here's the good news. The Milwaukee Bucks, in my opinion, were always the team that made the most sense outside of the Miami Heat for Bradley Beal. I never bought into the Detroit Pistons. I never bought into the Chicago Bulls. Those things just never made sense to me. Bradley Beal's not just going to waive his no-trade clause and go to one of those teams just to make you feel better. I know there's a human element that is hard to relate to in the NBA because these guys are all superstars and otherworldly players, and I get that. But these guys don't just want to uproot their families, especially players like Bradley Beal with a wife and kids. That's all different. You have to make it worth his while. The Milwaukee Bucks are the last team left that makes sense for a Jimmy Butler deal. At this point, it's the only thing out there, outside of the Heat, just doing the Suns a solid and taking back Bradley Beal for Jimmy Butler, which is possible, but we've seen numerous reports they are not interested in that. And with Jimmy Butler doing everything he can to force his way to Phoenix, good or bad, regardless if I like his tactics, at this point, I can't get too cute with it. I can't be getting self-righteous and thinking I'm better than getting a player like Jimmy Butler on the Suns team, because their seasons are flailing. We saw them against the Portland Trail Blazers a couple of nights ago. We're going to see them against the Portland Trail Blazers again tonight. It's got to happen. The Spurs are better. The Lakers are better. You could argue the Kings are just as good. The Suns need an alpha on this team and someone to kick them in the ass. And Bradley Beal's just not doing it. And I have nothing against Bradley Beal. Butler has to come in and give this team a wake-up call. And he's doing everything he can to force his way to Phoenix. And I couldn't care less at this point if he's forcing his way or if I like his tactics. I'm so past any of that. The San Antonio Spurs or whoever it is, the Lakers, they all got better. All of them did. And so you see a deal like Bradley Beal potentially being potentially moving to the Bucks, to the Suns. That's your last chance left for any sort of deal to be done for him. And it's the only thing at this point that makes any sense left. As far as how likely do I think it's going to happen, I'm not going to go back and forth anymore. I do think Jimmy ends up on the Suns by Thursday, and I think Bradley Beal ends up going to the Bucks because the Bucks missed out on the big fish and feel like they can help fill that void a little bit with a guy that used to be an all-star. And Bradley Beal is not a bad player. Don't confuse a bad contract with a bad player. Bradley Beal is still a very good player who just doesn't fit in the Suns system with a demonstrative contract that is just hard to move. He can help a team win. I know that doesn't make you feel good and it doesn't fit your narrative, but it's absolutely true. So that's where I am on the Jimmy Butler to the Phoenix Suns, and I do think it will happen, and I do think Beal will end up on the Bucks, and I do think the Heat are just going to have to take back some scraps and some picks because at this point, that's all they could scrap together at this point. So, what an insane turn of events over the past weekend, and the Suns, the Heat got turned up tremendously, pardon the pun, from them moving on from the Luka Doncic and the De'Aaron Fox trade. The Heat just got turned up to an 11 for the Phoenix Suns to have to make a move. Now it's to the point where if they don't make a move, it would be incredibly demoralizing. So, insane news, craziness happening in the NBA. Let's move over to that Luka Doncic trade. Because for those of you that don't know, and there's a good amount of you guys watching right now, so please don't forget to like, share, subscribe. It's not easy to do these shows at 6 a.m., especially when I have a flight to catch to New Orleans, as I will be at the Super Bowl Radio Row, doing some awesome things this week. Let me know in the comment section what you guys would like to see. I'll try to make it happen for you. There's this new landscape of the NBA taking place. And it's easy to point and laugh at the Dallas Mavericks because truly that's the only thing that makes sense about the Luka Doncic deal. But I do think there is a path to where this is the new normal in the NBA. And it's a really good thing if you're a Suns fan or if you are indeed one Matt Ishbia. There is no justifying the Luka Doncic trade. There is no justifying it. The dude could have held Nico Harrison's family for ransom and all of them at gunpoint. And you want to move him because he demands to be traded. It doesn't matter. You have to get more. You just do have to get more. If he could hold your family utterly hostage, Kevin Durant demanded a trade, and they still got an insane haul for him. There is no justifying the trade. You could say you could say he is eating In-N-Out Burger at every single practice. He's not paying attention. He's being a locker room cancer. Nothing justifies what they got for Luka Doncic. There is a world where it justifies why they traded him. Maybe his calf injury is more of a concern that even I am willing to admit. Or he's not going to hold up, or potentially I saw my guy Nick Angstead from Locked On Mavericks say this. Maybe it's an Andrew Luck type deal where he just can't deal with the injuries anymore and they know he's going to retire sooner rather than later. There is no world where you can justify the Luka Doncic trade. None. But there is a world where you could justify why you did it. And I think it's pretty clear why the Dallas Mavericks traded Luka Doncic. And it doesn't have anything to do with his weight or his attitude or his relationship with the GM. I think this all comes down to basic dollars and cents. I think Luka Doncic ultimately got traded because of his contract. And I kind of talked about this on Saturday. Some teams are aggressive. Some teams run aggressively at the second apron. Some teams sprint at it. And then you have some teams that balk at the idea of paying their superstars. And I think this whole idea that Luka Doncic's weight, or I don't know, maybe his attitude, or maybe he won't hold up over the course of the season ever again, I all think it is complete and utter nonsense. And I did see a potential idea thrown out there by one John Gambadoro of Arizona Sports, and I thought it did make sense. It was, why would the Dallas Mavericks only contact one team? How are they able to keep this under wraps? And he had basically said, well, it's pretty easy. If you just contact one team, it's easier to keep it under wraps, and that player can't do what Jimmy Butler's doing, find out about it and say, hey, don't trade for me. I will not sign an extension with you. And so teams won't back off because they don't know any better. And Luka at this point can't tell those teams because he didn't know he was being shopped. So I do think there's a world where this continues to happen in the NBA. And I do think that a Luka Doncic trade had nothing to do with his weight or his attitude or relationship with the general manager. I think this all came down to simple dollars and cents. And I think if you're a Phoenix Suns fan, that's a really, really good place for you to be. Because some owners run away from the second apron, and some owners run so fast into it, you wonder what the hell got into them and if they're tired of being rich because they just want to get rid of all of their money. I do think there's a world where teams like the Dallas Mavericks, or who knows, a Timberwolves, or whoever it is, a Grizzlies, whatever team is eligible to give their player the Supermax, but doesn't want to run towards, but didn't want to, I guess I should start that over. There are teams that could give their players Supermaxes, whether it's the Celtics with Jason Tatum over this last offseason, or the Memphis Grizzlies with John Morant at some point, or who knows, a team like the Timberwolves and Anthony Edwards, or whoever it is, any player that is eligible for a Supermax extension. If those teams don't think that their player is a bona fide top 3, top 5 player in the NBA, they might just deal him. And if teams know that they're not willing to pay their player because they don't want to give them $350 million up front over 6 years, then I think that they're going to go for even less than what even I thought they would go for. And if you're a Suns team worried about going in the tank because this big three is flailing and flailing quickly, I do think there's a life preserver for you out there. I don't think the Phoenix Suns, if they do end up going in the tank, are going to be in it for much longer. Because Phoenix is going to continue to be a destination for stars and superstars. Because their owner continues to fork over the money that is being asked of him to fork over. I don't think that this had anything to do with Luka Doncic's weight, relationship with the GM, attitude. I think this came down to simple dollars and cents. I think that they're just full bull-faced lying to you. I think Luka Doncic was going to command a $350 max extension. And what happened at that point is the Phoenix Suns or other teams will be willing to pay them that and get those players for less on the market. The Supermax is changing the landscape of the NBA to something that I never thought was ever going to be possible. But at this point, it just is possible. It is crazy. It's insane. I can't believe even I'm talking about this. But the likelihood that this doesn't continue, the likelihood that the Phoenix Suns and other teams with rich owners won't be there ripe for the taking to pay these players what they want to be paid, is craziness. It's why they got Bradley Beal, which of course was seen as a good deal at the time, for nothing. Because he had a huge contract and teams didn't want to pay him. That's all it was. And you see a team like the Lakers who's going to give him a $250+ million deal. Do you know the Dallas Mavericks cost Luka Doncic $118 million? Absurd. Ridiculous. Because now he's no longer eligible to sign the Supermax deal. Not only did the Mavericks give the Lakers a lifeline, they saved them millions and millions of dollars. It's why I'm not worried about the Suns going in the tank. I don't think that the next Suns rebuild is going to take another decade like it did with Robert Sarver. The Suns have a good owner, and I believe a good head coach that is going to keep them floating above relevancy for a long time. And when teams like the Dallas Mavericks don't want to play their superstars, they just don't want to pay their superstars ridiculous gobs of money, the Phoenix Suns or teams like the Phoenix Suns and owners like Matt Ishbia will be there ready to swoop down, do the taking, and relinquish those star players from those teams. And outside of that as well, this Suns team with Ryan Dunn, Devin Booker, Budenholzer, an owner like Matt Ishbia, I don't think there's a world where they continue to go in the dumps. And let me just say this, and this will be the last thing I say before I hop off and get ready to catch a flight. And maybe I'll revisit this again tomorrow. I was one of those people that were very adamant about just find out what you could get for Devin Booker on the trade block last year when they got swept by the Timberwolves, because I was in my feelings, because you were in your feelings. It happens. Wasn't my best moment. Probably don't want to do that again. After seeing Luka Doncic get traded, it has really changed my perspective on ever letting go of Devin Booker. Because I do feel for Mavs fans. If this was the trade I got for my superstar player, who's homegrown, who's mine, I don't know how I would react to it. This is the equivalent of the Suns getting Jamal Murray and a first-round pick. A significantly worse player who makes less money. That would be awful. So I feel for Dallas Mavericks fans. Truly I do. And it's made me more appreciative for having a guy like Devin Booker on this team. And I'll get deeper into that tomorrow. But I just thought it was really interesting. It has really changed my perspective on ever moving on like a guy with a guy like Devin Booker. Because I'll be honest with you, it still truly doesn't feel real that Luka Doncic is on the Los Angeles Lakers. And there's no other worse team he could have went. Just demoralizing to see him being able to move over to that team. And it should make anyone that's watching this stream, anyone watching this stream, feel more appreciative for their star player, especially homegrown. Makes Warriors fans not want to move off of their guy, Steph Curry. Suns fans not want to move off of Devin Booker. Timberwolves fans not want to move off a guy like Anthony Edwards. You should be more appreciative of your star player. And another thing, moral of the story this weekend, if you're Luka Doncic, or you get upset with a player like Kevin Durant for hopping from team to team, or LeBron James hopping from team to team, loyalty outside of to your spouse and to your family is largely overrated. I saw a tweet that said, the Dallas Mavericks just traded Luka Doncic, and you still think you're irreplaceable at work, or you're too important to be moved off of. And I thought that was, as my voice cracks there, I thought that was hilarious. Loyalty is largely overrated in life. Outside to your spouse and to your family, don't be loyal to a company. Don't be ridiculously loyal to a fault, to a friend that keeps burning you. Be loyal to your wife. Be loyal to your family. Be loyal to your really close friends that you would die for. Don't be loyal to a company. Don't be loyal to an organization. And stop getting upset with players when they want to move on and better themselves like LeBron and Kevin Durant did, or like Devin Booker has done. It is largely overrated. None of it really matters. Companies don't care about you. Do what you can to better yourself, your family, and your situation. Don't worry about what a company thinks. And I think Luka Doncic this weekend, who basically said the same thing, he thought he was going to spend his entire career with the Dallas Mavericks. I won't hold it against Devin Booker or Kevin Durant or LeBron James or whoever it is when they go team hopping. Just not going to hold it up against them. Loyalty is largely overrated outside to your family, to your close friends, and to your spouse. Everything else, there's a gray area. Don't just go around ripping off people, but have your best interest, your family's best interest, your spouse's best interests first before a company or before anything else. Because they'll be willing to move off of you if the right deal comes by. Regardless of the Dirk Nowitzki statue that says otherwise, loyalty never fades away. What a joke of a saying now. Just moving off of their guy who was Dallas. I can't imagine what that would feel like if it was Devin Booker of the Phoenix Suns. I mean, that would be just demoralizing. So, be loyal to your family, your spouse, your close friends. not so much to a company, not so much to people you don't know. Look out for your best interests and your families. Anyways, guys, 39 of you guys watching today. I think it peaked at like 42. That is a new record. Thank you so much for tuning into the Ben Garcia Show. I appreciate you guys making me a part of your day. Before you leave, could you guys please hit that like, subscribe button. Follow me on all social media platforms at Ben Garcia Show. I stream every morning, 6 a.m., 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tomorrow when I'm streaming, you will see me live from New Orleans. We will do a full Super Bowl breakdown. We'll talk about how it affects the Cardinals. We'll talk more about that Devin Booker stuff that I really want to get to. Follow me on all social media platforms. Hit that like button. Share, subscribe. Thank you so much for tuning into me a part of your day and making me a part of your day. An insane amount of people watching. We are growing tremendously. Thank you so much. We will talk to you guys tomorrow. King Nacho, Macaroni Time, Julio Garcia, Michael Evans, Gus Grandrith. All of you guys in the chat this morning, appreciate you guys making me a part of your day. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, tell a friend about the Ben Garcia Show. Follow me on all social media platforms. And until next time, I'm Benjamin Garcia, and it's been the Ben Garcia Show.